Hi, thank you guys for inviting me to this virtual event and talk a little about Cuba's historical support for Palestine and the links that exist between our struggles. I would like to begin by pointing out that Cuba's historical position in defense of self-determination of Palestinian people has its roots even before the triumph of the Cuban Revolution. During the votes at the United Nations for separating the by then British mandate in Palestine into two states in 1947, giving shape to the colonial Zionist project, Cuba voted against the creation of the State of Israel. Cuban delegates emphasized the unfair and illegal deal presented by the official of the British government. This is one of the very few examples of certain autonomy of Cuba's diplomacy prior to the triumph of the Cuban Revolution. After 1959, the solidarity of Cuba for the Palestinian cause has been unwavering. That has been expressed from all sectors within the Cuban society. The leaders of the Cuban Revolution and mass and political organizations has been openly standing in support of our brothers and sisters from Palestine. In 1973, Cuba ceased its diplomatic relation with Israel. This decision was informed by Fidel Castro during a summit of members of the non-aligned movement hosted in Argelia. Our country also established a Palestinian embassy in Havana even before the proclamation of independence of Palestine in November 1988 by the Organization for Palestinian Liberation. Cuba has also provided scholarship free of charge to over 1,000 of Palestinians in several fields and specialties. Today, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been graduated as health professionals and over 400 are currently studying in Cuban classrooms, being trained as a doctor together with Cuban students and from other students from over 100 different nationalities. In this sense, ICAP, the Cuban Institute of Friendship with the Peoples, and the Young Cuban Communist Union have been driving forces to mobilize and sensibilize our society regarding the Palestinian cause. Both organizations as part of their main aims, have the responsibility to educate and to form values in our society, especially for new generation of Cubans. That's why we encourage the defense of just causes around the world and promote a culture of peace, but not the peace of the graveyards and the oppressor's peace, but a just and dignified peace that respects people's sovereignty and self-determination. ICAP was the very first institution in Cuba that organized a public event in solidarity with Palestine after October 7th. The Young Cuban Communist Union has been also mobilizing the Cuban youth in support of the Palestinian cause, organizing massive caravans, rallies, public demonstrations in all the national territory, and using every single international platform to condemn the atrocities that are being committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. On May Day, Cuban workers also expressed their solidarity with Palestine, and more recently on May the 3rd, the Cuban Federation of University Students, together with the Young Communist Organization, organized a demonstration in the historical stairs of the University of Havana to express solidarity with American students and professors who are being repressed in several states of the United States for protesting against genocide and camping in universities' campuses, presenting fair demands to the director of those colleges. Cuba defends the legitimate cause of the Palestinian people with such effervescence precisely due to the similarities of our struggles and the conditions in which imperialism has tried to submit us. Because, for example, trying to submit millions of human beings under a regime of unilateral sanctions with an open objective of generating despair, hopelessness, hunger, the desperation, the present economic life of our people beyond their ideological perspective, position regarding the government or the revolutionary process, not caring about children, elderly people, isn't that some kind of collective punishment? And even worse, if you take into account that the argument of which this sanction has been established are groundless and illegal according to international law. Trying to generate this kind of harm for more than 60 years, encouraging terrorist activities against Cuba, logistically and operationally supporting mercenary invasion in Cuba, using biological warfare against our country, and taking advantage of a global health emergency such as the COVID-19 pandemic to tighten the blockade against our people. Could it not be classified as an action that seriously affects human rights or crime against humanity, including genocide? Isn't right that both the Palestinian and Cuban causes constitute, two of them, the greatest example of the diplomatic and political isolation of Israel and the United States in international forums, who are the only ones capable of justifying and supporting the genocide and the maintenance of the blockade against Cuba? Are not both cases transparent example of the impunity with which the United States imperialism operates and what is capable of justified in order to move forward its agenda? Of the double standards that governs the international rule of law and the need to transform that justice? Isn't that both Cuba and Palestine have not been object of media war, defamation, fake news by the Western media and the ideological apparatuses existing in both traditional media and digital networks? The Palestinians are not only giving a heroic example of resistance and resilience to the world, they're also giving lesson to the oppressed people of what imperialism and its allies are capable of justifying. And we must face that common challenge together. And this also entails a big responsibility and extremely important role for the working class and activists who live within the core of global capitalism. From revolutionary Cuba, this legacy of support and solidarity with Palestine will continue. The Cuban youth organizing the Young Communist Union will also continue with the challenge of living up to what history demands from us, and continue to be part of the vanguard youth of our nation. From Cuba, long live Palestine and long live solidarity. Thank you guys.